Well, you found an apartment to lease. If it's one in a big area, multiple units, most likely you're going to sign a lease, which a lease is a contract that gives you the rights to have a portion of the building or development. The lease will have several pages. There will be small print, and you're probably not going to read it all. But you need to read many of the sections, and I want to make sure that you know which ones those are. The name of the apartment complex or manager is going to be in the front part of the lease at the very beginning, and it will then also have a place for your name or your other roommates. Now, this is important. If more than one person is signing on the lease, then more than one, in other words, to be living there, then more than one person should be on the document, because that gives the individual people rights against each other. If one person skips out, then you have legal rights to go and collect any rent that you've paid on their behalf. So the names on the top of the lease should match the names at the back of the lease where everybody's going to sign. Okay, make sure everything's spelled correctly, etc. All right, so that identifies who is going to be on the lease. The next section will say where. Identify by the address, apartment number, something like that. Most likely they're going to have a list of rules. Make sure you read those rules and understand them. If you don't understand them, ask questions. If something in there doesn't look right, you can find another apartment. But anyway, understand those rules. If there is a section in the lease itself under rules, guidelines, restrictions, or on a separate page identified as rules, look in there, because somewhere in there it might say, or any other rules that we adopt later. Well, see if it says that, and then find out, is this your current set of rules that I'm looking at now, or is there a more current document? And if you have new rules, where am I going to find those? Are you going to send them to me? Are they going to be on the website? Most apartment complexes have a website. How am I going to know, number one, when they go into effect, number two, what they are? And then periodically, if they say, yes, we do updates on the website, check it and find out, are there updated rules, because you don't want to be in violation. The term of the lease should identify months that it covers. Sometimes they're for less than a year, sometimes for more than a year. And check the beginning and the ending date. Make sure that's what you understand it to be. Now, don't be afraid, because sometimes the lease will say this is for 5 years, and then there will be a humongous number of rent that you have to pay. But that is how it's written, is that's the total amount over the whole term, and then it should have another part that says this is how much you owe a month. So don't freak out, but that's normal. There will also be a section in there about utilities. Are utilities covered? Are any utilities covered? Trash, water, electricity, gas. I can't think, maybe Wi-Fi or internet, cable, dish, some of those things. See if any of those things are covered in there. What's covered by the lease and what's not. Are those services available for a cost, or do you have a washer dryer in your unit? Something like that. Find out. The other things that you should check for are pets. If you have pets, is there a weight limit? Do not try to sneak in your pets, because they'll find you. But sometimes there will be a pet deposit. Depending upon where you live, there are or may be rules that govern landlord-tenant rights. And that's a separate section that you can probably Google it, ask your local attorney, and it'll say how much they can charge for pet deposits or extra rent for pets. It may or may not. I'm not telling you it does or doesn't, but these are types of things that you might check as an outside resource. For security deposit also. Now, the security deposit will be in the lease. Some places they take the first and last month's rent. Some places may take more. Read that section and understand what that's for. It doesn't mean that you can leave 60 days before the end of the lease, most likely, and then say just apply the security deposit. There may be a further penalty, in fact, if you do that. Which brings me to the next section, which is termination. Look at the sections. Are there any out clauses? Is this your first job and you may be transferred? Do you want to maybe buy a house? Do you think that's possible? You know, you signed a lease for a longer term to get a better rate, but you may want to buy a house. Is there a section, or can you include an exclusion to get out of the lease early in some of those situations where you're moving out of town because of your job transfer or buying a house? Those would be the most common. Again, you never know unless you ask. So if that's a possibility, ask. Now, again, with the rules, while those rules are for behavior or things in the complex, it can also talk about what you can or can't have in the unit. In the olden days, when they had water beds, it was a big deal because all of a sudden people were buying water beds and they were heavier, and so there might have been structural issues. So but this could be safety things, you know, barbecue grills on the balcony that's all wood. I would think that's a no-no already, but you know, check your lease, because for other than just common sense, it may be a contract and you could be in violation if you know somebody comes over and fires up the grill and you fire up the whole building. That would not be good. Let's see what else. Damage. So now that you've got this crazy person who's come over and started the grill, damage to your place. You are responsible for that unit, you and whoever else signed the lease. So you are responsible for your guests. And if they damage the place, it's going to be on you. Which brings me all the way back to the beginning, which is before you move in or on the day you move in, if your landlord does not have this, you should do this yourself. Make a list and go through the place. If there is any damage on any wall, if any door jam or door doesn't work, make sure the keys work, make sure the utilities work, make sure the water works, the toilets flush. If there's carpet torn anywhere, hopefully not. If there's any damages to tile, take a picture. You've got your cell phone, take a picture, make a list, and have somebody from the landlord sign it, because otherwise you're going to be responsible for that at the end. And at the end, meaning hopefully that you've successfully completed the term and you're moving on to a new place, and not that you're being evicted. But either way, at the end, then you also want to have a check through and make sure everything is turned back in. We talk about it as broom clean condition, normal wear and tear accepted. Meaning, you know, if you've lived there 4 years and, you know, the floor is already 10 years old, then, you know, it's conceivable that you're going to be actually walking on the floor, so it's going to have wear and tear. Carpeting likewise. So you want to protect yourself, because that security deposit will be snagged by the landlord to take care of any of these damage items. Then further, look in the lease for when the security deposit is to be returned to you. And again, there may be state laws in your area that talk about this. You may need to make a specific request at the end for it to be returned, and if it's not returned, ask for a specific itemization of why and what they are attributing, you know, deductions to it from. And then if 4 of you are signing on for an apartment and 4 of you are contributing to the security deposit, how is it going to be repaid back to you guys? Maybe cover that in the lease as well. And then if somebody skips out, maybe have a separate side agreement that, you know, they forfeit their share and it's assigned to the other two. Sometimes roommates are not the best and you end up cleaning up for everyone. And then also carports and parking. That may be a separate component and a separate charge. I think that covers it. Make sure your lease is paid on time. There will be late charges, and comply with any notice requirements. You should be good to go.